Evelyn Price slid a signed blank check across her desk and told Aaron Mitchell to write whatever number would make the problem disappear. Aaron did not touch it. Tell my daughter why her mother left us. For the first time since he had entered the top-floor office of North Star Transit Systems, the Millionaire CEO had nothing to say. Aaron could hear the clock behind her. He could hear the heating vent. He could even hear the little metal bus on his key ring tapping against the arm of the chair. He was 45 years old, a single father, and the owner of a two-truck school bus diagnostics business that could be wiped out by the woman sitting across from him. 11 days earlier, he had found a safety defect in 3 of her company's newest buses. Now North Star's largest contract in Ohio was on hold, his own contract had been threatened, and his 13-year-old daughter had started asking questions about her mother that Aaron had spent 6 years avoiding. Evelyn looked down at the check as if it had betrayed her. This is about the current fleet, she said. No. The current fleet is how we got here. Rebecca signed an agreement. Rebecca signed a lot of things after your company cornered her. Aaron leaned forward but kept his hands away from the check. So did I. That last part changed Evelyn's expression. Not much. Just enough. Does Sophie know that? She asked. She knows everybody keeps telling her they did what was best for her. And what do you think this meeting is? Aaron looked at the empty line beside the dollar sign. Another adult deciding what she can live without. Evelyn sat back. Behind her, a wall of glass showed downtown Columbus in sharp November light. North Star's silver logo was mounted on the building across the courtyard. Under it were the words "Safety brings every child home." Aaron had serviced enough machines to know that the label on the outside usually told you what the owner wanted you to believe, not what was happening inside. He stood. If you can't say it to a 13-year-old, he said, you shouldn't be asking me to sign it. 11 days earlier, Aaron had been lying on cold concrete beneath bus number 24 when Sophie's first text came through. Reserved you a seat. Front row. Left side. He slid out from under the chassis, wiped his thumb on his work pants and checked the time. 4:38. Her school's fall showcase began at 6. The drive from the Franklin County Transportation Depot to Woodbury Middle took 25 minutes without traffic. He had already finished the inspection he was scheduled to perform. All he needed to do was close his case, hand Calvin Reese the report and leave. Then Calvin came around the back of the bus carrying a tablet and wearing the expression Aaron had learned to dislike. Calvin had managed the district fleet for 19 years. He was 58, broad through the shoulders, and incapable of delivering bad news without first pressing his lips together like a man tasting spoiled milk. Before you pack up, he said, I've got one weird thing. Aaron looked at his phone again. Calvin noticed. Showcase. Sophie's doing an oral history presentation. She made me promise not to walk in during the middle this time. Then go. What's the weird thing? That was Aaron's problem. He could recognize a trap and step into it with both feet if the trap sounded like a machine that needed fixing. Calvin turned the tablet toward him. 3 drivers reported delayed stop-arm deployment. Same model, same delivery batch. North Star's remote service says the logs are clean. How delayed? One driver said 2 seconds. Another said maybe 4. Third one couldn't make it happen again. For seconds did not sound like much until you pictured an 8-year-old stepping off a bus while a car behind it had not yet been told to stop. Aaron called Sophie. She answered on the second ring. You're not canceling. I didn't say that. You called instead of texting. That proves nothing. Dad. In the background, he could hear chairs scraping and a teacher asking students to line their project boards against the wall. I found something I need to check, he said. 20 minutes. 30 at the most. Sophie was quiet. Aaron filled the quiet the way he always did. I'll take Broad Street instead of the highway. I've got my clean shirt in the truck. You'll never know I was working. I always know you were working. That sounded judgmental. It was observational. She had gotten that word from Rebecca. Aaron could hear it even though Sophie could not. Ask first, fix second, Sophie said. It was a rule they had invented after Aaron had emailed her science teacher to solve a group project problem Sophie had only wanted to complain about. The rule was supposed to remind him that not every discomfort required a wrench, an invoice, or an adult stepping in. Okay, Aaron said. What do you want me to do? I want you to be here before I start. Then I will be. He believed it when he said it. Aaron began with bus 24 because it was closest. The bus was one of 14 new North Star Electroline models the district had bought that summer. They were not fully electric buses. North Star had built its reputation on electronic safety systems fitted into conventional fleets. Door controls, crossing alarms, camera networks, and automatic stop arms. The company's advertising called the package an invisible co-driver. Drivers Aaron knew called it one more computer to blame when a light started flashing. The reported fault did not appear during a normal startup. Aaron tried twice. The red lights activated, the stop arm swung out, and the crossing alarm sounded exactly when it should. He pulled the system logs. Cling. He checked the harness connections. Dry, tight, no visible damage. At 5:02 he should have stopped. At 5:10 he told himself he was one test away. At 5:18 he was still staring at a voltage graph when the blue enamel bus on his key ring slipped from the edge of his tool case and landed beside the controller housing. Sophie had given him that key ring when she was 7. She had bought it at a school book fair with $3 she was supposed to spend on a book, then written route home on the back in silver marker because Aaron sometimes got called to depots 2 counties away. The marker had faded until only the word home remained clear. Aaron picked it up. As he did, his flashlight crossed the controller label at a different angle. There was a small stamped code beneath the serial number. R7. He stared at it longer than he needed to. Calvin crouched beside him. That means something? Maybe. Good something or bad something? Ask me after I'm wrong. Aaron connected a portable load tester and brought the auxiliary battery down in controlled steps. At 24%, nothing happened. At 22, the stop arm deployed half a second late. At 19, the red lights came on but the arm stayed folded against the bus for 3 full seconds. Calvin stopped chewing his gum. Aaron repeated the test. Same result. He tried bus 27. Then bus 31. Same result. At 5:46, Sophie sent a photograph of the front row. One chair had a sheet of notebook paper taped to it. That. Do not give away. Aaron looked from the picture to the open controller. Shut the 3 down, he told Calvin. North Star's going to fight that. Then they can fight it while the buses are parked. Calvin started making calls. Aaron emailed a preliminary finding to the district's transportation director and copied North Star technical support. He attached the voltage graph, the test conditions, and a short video of the delayed arm. He left the depot at 5:58. At 6:16, Sophie stood beside her project board and watched another student begin the presentation that had been scheduled after hers. Aaron reached the school at 6:23. The chair with his name on it was still empty. Sophie's teacher had saved it because teachers sometimes understood a child's hope better than the parent who had created it. Sophie was in the hallway packing a cardboard display into a canvas bag. I'm sorry, Aaron said. The bus thing? The bus thing. Was somebody in danger? Maybe. I don't know yet. She nodded once as if that made the answer easier. It did not make her look less disappointed. I recorded it, she said. Mrs. Lennox said we can watch it at home. Aaron reached for the display bag. Sophie kept hold of it. I can carry it. I know. You always say that after you grab something. He let go. On the drive home, Sophie sat with the project balanced against her knees. Aaron could see only the back of the board. Her title, written in thick black marker, showed through the paper in reverse. The person who left. He knew before he asked. Your project was about Mom? It was supposed to be an interview with somebody in our family. She didn't answer. You called her? 3 times this week. You should have told me. Sophie turned toward the window. Ask first, fix second. I'm not trying to fix it. You're already mad at her. Aaron gripped the steering wheel. Rebecca lived in Pittsburgh now. She and Sophie spoke irregularly, sometimes twice in 1 week and then not for a month. There were birthday packages, awkward summer visits, and explanations that never matched the size of the absence. Aaron had spent 6 years telling Sophie that her mother loved her but had needed a new start. It was the kind of sentence adults used when the real one had too many sharp edges. Your mom should have called you back, he said. Why did she leave North Star? The question came so calmly that Aaron almost missed the turn. What does North Star have to do with your project? Her old badge was in the box in your closet. You went through my closet? You told me the printer paper was in there. That was true. Aaron disliked arguments that began with accurate information. There were newspaper clippings, Sophie continued. One said Mom was dismissed after a testing dispute. What kind of dispute? Aaron looked at the road. It was complicated. That means you don't want to tell me. It means you're 13. And how old do I have to be before everybody stops saying that? He could have told her then. Not everything but enough. He could have admitted that the code stamped beneath the controller in bus 24 belonged to a system Rebecca had once warned North Star about. He could have said that the newspaper clipping was wrong, but not entirely for the reason Sophie would want. Instead, Aaron did what he had been doing since she was 7. He chose the clean answer. Your mother lost her job, he said. She got an offer in Pittsburgh. We were already having problems and she took it. Sophie watched him for a moment. Did she leave because of me? No. Did she leave because of you? Aaron's phone rang through the truck speakers before he had to answer. The dashboard showed North Star Transit Systems. He accepted the call. A man introduced himself as Martin Kessler, North Star's chief operating officer. His voice was smooth, patient, and practiced in the way of someone who had discovered that speaking softly made threats sound like procedures. Mr. Mitchell, Martin said, we need to discuss the report you just distributed. Aaron glanced at Sophie. Tomorrow morning. It needs to be tonight. Then it needs to be with the district because those are their buses. Your test used conditions outside the approved service protocol. The batteries weren't outside the bus. Sophie looked at him. Even angry, she appreciated a precise sentence. Martin paused. Do not perform additional tests until North Star Engineering arrives. And do not characterize this as a safety issue. A stop arm that waits 3 seconds is a safety issue. It may be a diagnostic artifact. Kids don't cross a diagnostic artifact. They cross a road. The soft patience left Martin's voice. North Star authorizes your company as a service vendor. That status depends on following our process. My process is keeping broken buses parked. Aaron ended the call. For a few seconds only the tires spoke. Then Sophie asked, was he Mom's boss? Aaron had not told her Martin's name. He looked over. Sophie held up her phone. The newspaper clipping was open on the screen. In the photograph beside the old article, Martin Kessler stood behind Rebecca with one hand on the back of her chair. And Aaron understood that the question he had avoided was not waiting for him anymore. It was already moving without him. North Star's engineering team arrived at the depot at 7:15 the next morning. They came in matching gray jackets, carrying sealed cases, and looking offended by the existence of weather. Martin Kessler came with them. So did Evelyn Price. Aaron recognized Evelyn from business magazines Calvin kept in the depot restroom because Calvin believed that was the proper place for articles about executives. She was 53, with dark hair cut at her chin and the calm posture of someone accustomed to rooms rearranging themselves when she entered. She had become North Star's chief executive 4 years earlier and was reported to own enough company stock to be worth more than $60 million. Her interviews always mentioned that she still drove the first bus North Star had used for demonstrations. None mentioned whether she knew how to open its controller housing. At the depot, she did not introduce herself with her title. Show me, she told Aaron. That earned a small amount of respect. Aaron demonstrated the fault on bus 24. North Star's lead engineer repeated the approved sequence and could not reproduce it. Martin folded his arms. As I said, he began. Aaron connected the load tester. Your approved sequence assumes a fully charged auxiliary battery. That is the expected operating condition, Martin said. Calvin laughed once. Expected by who? A bus is a building full of people that shakes all day. Nothing stays expected. Evelyn ignored him and watched Aaron lower the charge. At 19%, the warning lights flashed. The stop arm remained folded. 1 second. 2. 3. Then it swung into position. No one spoke. Aaron reset the system and did it again. Evelyn crouched beside the open panel. Her coat touched the concrete, and Martin moved as if he wanted to rescue it. She pointed at the label. R7. You know it, Aaron said. She stood too quickly. It's a revision designation. From 6 years ago. The current controller is not 6 years old. The casing isn't. Aaron opened his tool case and removed a small orange inspection tag sealed inside a clear plastic sleeve. It was creased down the middle and stained at one corner. Rebecca's handwriting crossed the front in narrow block letters. Test below 20%. Arm delay. Do not release. Under that were her initials and a date from 6 years earlier. Martin looked at Aaron, not the tag. Where did you get that? It was attached to a controller my wife brought home the week North Star fired her. Former wife, Martin said. Aaron felt Calvin shift beside him. That's the part you heard? Aaron asked. Evelyn held out her hand. May I see it? Aaron did not give it to her. He angled the sleeve so she could read it without taking possession. Rebecca's report involved an earlier component family, Martin said. There was no verified field failure. Then why did your company remove low-voltage testing from the release sheet 2 weeks after she filed it? The question came from a woman standing behind the engineers. Aaron had seen her at the depot but had never been introduced. She wore the district's Navy transportation jacket and carried a binder with colored tabs. Calvin said, "Evelyn Price, this is Dawn Patel, our safety and training coordinator. She remembers everything and forgives almost nothing." Dawn nodded. "I was a driver then." North Star sent updated instructions. Page 4 changed. Martin smiled without warmth. "A procedure changing does not prove misconduct." "No," Dawn said. "But it makes the procedure a strange thing to hide behind." Evelyn asked Aaron to perform the test on all 3 buses. He did. Each failed within the same voltage range. By 10 o'clock, the district had parked all 14 new North Star buses pending review. The other 11 had not produced a driver complaint, but Aaron was not willing to treat silence as proof. Evelyn agreed to the temporary hold. Martin objected privately, then publicly described it as a routine precaution. That phrase reached the local news before lunch. It also reached Sophie. Aaron found her in the kitchen after school, watching Evelyn give a short statement from the depot. The television captions showed North Star's slogan beneath her face. "Safety brings every child home." "Did Mom write that tag?" Sophie asked. Aaron set his tool case by the door. "You went into my case? You left it open when you changed your shirt. That doesn't make it yours." "No, but apparently it makes it the only place in this house where you keep answers." He took off his coat slowly. Sophie's project board was on the kitchen table. She had covered the original title with a clean strip of paper. The person who left was gone. In its place she had written what people leave out. "That's not fair," Aaron said. "Then tell me the fair version." "Your mother found a problem with one of North Star's systems. She believed it was dangerous. The company said her testing was wrong." "Who was right?" "I don't know yet." "You kept her tag for 6 years." "Because I didn't know." Sophie looked at him with the merciless logic of a child old enough to spot a contradiction and young enough to believe adults should be able to resolve one. "That makes no sense." It did not. Aaron had kept the tag because throwing it away would have been a decision. Keeping it had allowed him to pretend he had not made one. "Your mom was under a lot of pressure," he said. "We both were." "Did North Star make her move?" "No one made her move." "Did you want her to go?" "Sophie. That's not an answer. I'm trying to give you the truth without giving you parts you're not ready for." Sophie pushed back from the table. "How would you know? You didn't ask." She went upstairs and closed her door. Not slammed. Closed. The carefulness of it was worse. Aaron stood alone beside the revised project board. At 7 that evening he called Rebecca. She answered after 5 rings. "Is Sophie okay?" she asked. "She called you 3 times." "I know. I was in Cleveland for a site launch. I texted her this morning. She needed you before her presentation. And she needed you in the chair she saved." Aaron leaned against the counter. 6 years had not reduced Rebecca's ability to find the exact piece of blame he did not want touched. "The R7 fault is back," he said. The line went silent. "Where?" "Franklin County's new fleet. Different controller, same delay below 20%. Your test tag matched it." "You kept the tag?" "Yes." Rebecca breathed out. "Of course you did. What does that mean?" "You keep broken things when admitting they're broken would require a conversation." "I called for technical information, Rebecca." "No, you called because Sophie started asking questions and now the machines have made lying inconvenient." Aaron lowered his voice. "I have not lied to her." "What did you tell her about why I left?" "That you lost your job and took another one." "Did you tell her why I lost it?" "We don't know that your report was right." "You reproduced it this morning?" "On a new system. With the same revision code." Aaron closed his eyes. Rebecca had always listened to facts as if each one were a witness who deserved to finish speaking. "North Star says it's unrelated," he said. "North Star said I changed test data." "Did you take files off the company server?" "There it is." "It's a question." "It's the question you asked 6 years ago because it was easier than asking why I thought I needed copies." Aaron heard movement upstairs. Sophie's floorboard, then quiet. "I signed what I signed because Martin told me they were considering charges," Aaron said. "You signed a statement saying I removed proprietary records without a safety purpose. They said they would sue us. We had a mortgage. Sophie was 7. You signed it before you asked me. You wouldn't talk to their lawyer. Their lawyer wasn't my husband." The sentence landed without volume. Aaron looked toward the stairs. "Does Sophie know about my statement?" he asked. "No. She knows what you taught her. I chose a job over her." "I never said that." "You didn't have to. You gave her the simple version and let me carry the simple blame." You moved 3 hours away. After your statement killed my case, after Northstar made every local employer afraid to touch me, and after you filed for primary custody because I was unemployed. You agreed. I had no apartment and no income. Agreement is a generous word. Aaron pressed his palm against the counter. He had repeated his version of those months so many times it had taken on the smoothness of truth. Rebecca had been unpredictable. She had missed calls. She had left Sophie waiting twice during the first summer. Those things were real. So were the days Aaron had refused to alter the schedule because changing it felt like allowing chaos back into the house. What do you want me to do? He asked. Tell her your part. That's not what I asked. It's the only technical information that matters tonight. Rebecca ended the call. Aaron remained at the counter, staring at the dark phone screen. What statement? Sophie asked. She was sitting halfway down the stairs. Aaron's first instinct was to ask how much she had heard. His second was to tell her the conversation was private. Both instincts came from the same belief. If he could control the amount of damage entering the room, he could control how much pain reached his daughter. Sophie came down one step. What did you sign? Aaron could diagnose an intermittent electrical fault by listening to a driver describe what happened before it. He could trace a short through 40 feet of wiring without pulling every panel. But sitting in his own kitchen, he had no instrument for measuring how much truth a child could bear. So he gave her a piece. Northstar asked me whether your mom had taken company files home, he said. I said she had. Had she? Yes. Why? She said she needed proof of the testing problem. Did you believe her? Aaron looked at the orange tag on the table. Not enough. Sophie descended the remaining stairs. Her face did not collapse. She did not cry. She simply pulled out a chair and sat down, which frightened Aaron more because it meant she intended to understand him. Did your statement get her fired? The company had already suspended her. That's not what I asked. It helped them. And then you told me she left for a job. She did leave for a job. After you helped them. Aaron sat across from her. I was trying to keep us from losing the house. Martin told me Northstar could come after both of us. You had just started first grade. Your mom was barely sleeping. We were fighting every night. So you fixed it. I made the decision I thought would keep you safe. Without asking her. He did not answer. And you keep doing that to me, Sophie said. You were 7. I'm not 7 now. She turned the project board around. Beneath its new title were 3 columns. What I know. What I was told. What I still have to ask. The last column was the longest. I don't need you to make mom innocent, Sophie said. I need you to stop making everybody simple. Then she carried the board upstairs. At 8:12 the next morning, Evelyn Price called Aaron personally and asked him to come to Northstar headquarters. She said she wanted to discuss a way forward. Aaron had begun to understand that a way forward usually meant someone had already decided which parts of the past were allowed to come with them. Northstar headquarters had a family wall in its main lobby. Employees had pinned photographs of children, parents, grandparents, dogs, and one highly regarded parakeet beneath silver letters that read "Who we work for." Aaron stopped in front of it while the receptionist called upstairs. Near the center was an old photograph of Rebecca holding 7-year-old Sophie on her shoulders at a company picnic. Aaron had never seen that picture. Someone had drawn a yellow circle around Sophie's face. Martin stepped out of the elevator before Aaron could look closer. That display is for current employees, he said. Then take down the slogan too. Martin's mouth tightened. Evelyn asked for a constructive meeting. I brought my constructive personality. You're risking a great deal for a fault that has not caused an injury. That's generally when you want to fix one. They rode to the 10th floor in silence. Evelyn's office was large but not theatrical. No gold fixtures, no art chosen to frighten visitors. Her desk held 2 neat stacks of paper, a ceramic mug from a school district in Indiana, and a brass model of Northstar's first stop arm assembly. The most expensive thing in the room was the view. Northstar's general counsel joined them by video from Chicago. Evelyn started with the current buses. The company wanted Aaron to release his test data, the physical tag, and any old Northstar materials in his possession. In return, Northstar would fund an independent test supervised by a mutually approved engineering firm. And the buses stay parked? Aaron asked. Until the test is complete, Evelyn said. In writing. The lawyer nodded. That can be arranged. It sounded reasonable. That made Aaron more cautious. What happens to my service authorization? Martin answered. It remains under review because you distributed an unverified allegation outside the approved chain. I sent a fault report to the people who own the buses. You copied the district superintendent. She also owns the buses. Evelyn raised one hand. We are not here to debate email etiquette. She opened a folder. Inside was a consulting agreement, a transfer of technical rights, and a confidentiality provision broad enough to cover both the current fault and any information connected to Rebecca's old claim. Northstar would pay Aaron an immediate $250,000, retain Mitchell Fleet Diagnostics for 5 years, and purchase his low-voltage diagnostic protocol. The total guaranteed value was just over $1 million. Aaron read the first 2 pages twice. You prepared this overnight? We move quickly when safety is involved, Evelyn said. It was the kind of sentence that sounded better if nobody in the room remembered 6 years earlier. Aaron turned to the confidentiality section. This says I can't tell the district that the current controller shares logic with R7. It says you won't make that assertion before independent verification. It also says I surrender the tag. The tag is Northstar property, Martin said. It has spent 6 years in my toolbox. It's shown more loyalty to my company. Evelyn closed the folder. What do you want, Mr. Mitchell? I want the test done. I want every current unit checked below 20%. And I want the old test records opened. Those records concern a settled personnel matter. They concern the same stamped code. You're assuming a relationship. And you're paying $1 million to make sure I don't describe it. The lawyer on the screen asked for a private recess. Evelyn ended the call instead. Martin rose. Evelyn, give us the room. He looked at Aaron as though memorizing the cause of a future inconvenience, then left. Evelyn walked to the window. The Indiana contract closes next week, she said. It keeps 2 production lines open. 812 people depend on those lines directly or indirectly. If our lenders decide this is a repeat safety issue, they can delay funding. If they delay funding, the contract may go to a competitor. That does not only affect executives. Then you should want to know if it's a repeat issue. I want facts handled in an order that does not destroy the company before we have them. Rebecca wanted that too. Rebecca took confidential data. After Martin ignored her report. That is her account. What's yours? Evelyn turned. I was chief financial officer. I was told she altered a validation condition after the system passed, then removed files when the engineering committee rejected her conclusions. I approved a settlement that protected her from litigation and paid your family 18 months of salary. It paid the mortgage while the company told everybody she falsified tests. The company made no public accusation. You didn't have to. You put "dismissed after testing dispute" in a statement and let people finish the sentence. What would you have had me say? The truth. Which truth? Hers. Martin's? Yours. Evelyn took a breath. You signed a sworn statement supporting the company's account. I signed because Martin told me Rebecca had exposed us to a lawsuit we could never pay. Then perhaps your anger belongs in more than one direction. It was cruel. It was also accurate. Aaron looked at the brass stop arm on her desk. My daughter found the article. Evelyn's face shifted. Sophie? You remember her name. Rebecca brought her to everything. She used to hide under the prototype tables and sort bolts by size. Evelyn glanced toward the lobby beyond the office walls. That picture downstairs was taken the day Sophie put grape jelly in a validation port. She was 7. She was curious. She still is. Evelyn returned to her desk, opened a drawer and removed a checkbook. The agreement can be changed, she said. If the amount is the issue, name one. She wrote the date, signed the bottom, and left the payee and amount blank. Then she slid it across the desk. Write whatever number would make this problem disappear. Aaron did not touch it. Tell my daughter why her mother left us. The clock ticked behind Evelyn. The bus key ring tapped against Aaron's chair. And the powerful woman who had built a career out of assigning a price to risk discovered a question with no safe number beside it. This is about the current fleet, she finally said. No. The current fleet is how we got here. Rebecca signed an agreement. Rebecca signed a lot of things after your company cornered her. So did I. Evelyn's eyes moved to the check. Does Sophie know that? She knows everybody keeps telling her they did what was best for her. And what do you think this meeting is? Another adult deciding what she can live without. Aaron stood. If you can't say it to a 13-year-old, you shouldn't be asking me to sign it. This time there was no earlier day to retreat into. He walked out and left the blank check on her desk. By the time he reached the parking garage, Northstar had suspended his service authorization. By noon, The district had been notified that Mitchell Fleet Diagnostics was no longer approved to access Northstar equipment. At 2, Calvin called. I've been ordered to secure the buses and keep you out of the service bay. By Northstar? By District Council because Northstar says your testing may affect the warranty. They're going to erase the logs. They say they're preserving them. That sentence ever comfort anybody? Calvin sighed. I made copies of our maintenance records before the order. Our records, Aaron. Nothing that belongs to Northstar. Good. And Don has every driver report since delivery. Better. But you can't come here. That was the first serious cost. Northstar work accounted for almost 60% of Aaron's revenue. He had one employee, a 30-year-old technician named Luis Ortega, who had a new baby and a wife finishing nursing school. Aaron could survive a few weeks without the authorization. Luis could not survive Aaron pretending everything would be fine until the checking account explained otherwise. Aaron met him at the shop that afternoon. Their shop occupied the back half of a former tire warehouse and smelled permanently of rubber, coffee, and electrical cleaner. Aaron showed Luis the suspension notice and the monthly numbers. Luis read them once. So I'm fired? No. You did the math with your jaw. That's firing math. I can cover payroll for 6 weeks. What about yours? I'm the owner. Apparently I'm paid in character. Luis did not smile. My cousin's fleet needs weekend inspections. I can pick up hours there until this clears. Aaron wanted to say no. His survival belief had always dressed itself as generosity. If he carried every burden first, nobody else could be hurt by it. But Luis was an adult with a child of his own, not a part Aaron was authorized to move around. Do that, Aaron said. Use my portable scanner if you need it. You sure? Ask first, fix second. What? Nothing. My daughter is reorganizing management. That evening, Aaron found Sophie sitting on the living room floor with a bank envelope open beside her. She had spread brochures for a spring choir trip across the rug. Why are you looking at the deposit? He asked. It's due Friday. I know. I don't have to go. You've been talking about Chicago since May. It's $480. I know what it costs. Your company got suspended. Aaron sat on the couch. You heard me talking to Luis. The wall heard you talking to Luis. You're going on the trip. Dad. That is not your problem. Sophie gathered the brochures. You make everything my problem by refusing to tell me, and then you tell me none of it is my problem. You are not giving up your trip because I found a bad controller. What if it takes more than 6 weeks? Aaron looked at her. How much did you hear? Enough to know you're doing the clean answer again. She placed the deposit form on the coffee table. I want to go, she said. But I don't want you putting it on a credit card and pretending it's handled. Tell me what we can actually do. Aaron almost assured her. The words were already arranged. He could sell a piece of equipment, delay his truck payment, pick up municipal work. She would not have to worry. Instead, he opened the banking app and showed her the business account, the household account, and the invoices due that month. He did not turn it into a lecture. He did not hand her adult responsibility. He simply showed her the boundary between uncertain and impossible. We can pay the deposit, he said. If this lasts longer than 8 weeks, we change some things. The trip is not the first thing we change. What is? My subscription to a streaming service I have been paying for since you were 9. Which one? I don't know. That's why it goes first. Sophie smiled despite herself. Then she asked, would the blank check have fixed this? Aaron had told her about the offer because hiding it would have turned the lesson into theater. Financially? Yes. Why didn't you take it? Because they wanted the tag in my silence. What if the tests prove Mom was wrong? Then I say she was wrong. And if they prove she was right? Aaron looked toward his tool case by the door. Then I say what I should have said 6 years ago. Sophie folded the Chicago brochure along its existing crease. To who? She asked. That question stayed with him through the night. Telling Sophie was not the same as telling the district. Telling the district was not the same as telling the workers whose jobs Evelyn had placed on the other side of the scale. A truth could be necessary and still do damage. Aaron knew that. What he no longer trusted was the habit of using possible damage as permission for silence. The next morning, Don Patel brought him a cardboard box. They met in the parking lot of a diner half a mile from the depot, because Aaron was not allowed on district property and Don had no interest in making Calvin explain why a suspended contractor was drinking coffee in the dispatch room. These are copies, she said. Driver defect reports, training updates, maintenance notes. All district records. Aaron opened the box. Did council approve this? Council said the district could cooperate with its own safety review. I am the person conducting it. You enjoy exact language. It keeps men like Martin from owning every verb. She tapped one folder. Look at reports from the first week of October. Not stop-arm complaints. Door alarms, camera resets, crossing tone delays. They were treated as separate nuisance faults. Aaron spent the next 6 hours building a timeline across the shop floor. Luis came in after his weekend shift and helped match vehicle numbers to firmware updates. At first, the complaints looked random. Then Sophie arrived after school, stepped carefully between the pages, and asked why he had arranged them by date instead of battery level. Because dates show when the fault started, Aaron said. But you already know when it happens. Aaron looked at her. She raised both hands. Ask first. Do you want help? He handed her a pack of blue sticky notes. They marked every report that mentioned an auxiliary battery below 1/4. The pattern tightened immediately. Door alarms, camera resets, crossing tones, and stop-arm delays were not separate faults. They were symptoms of the same controller entering a power-saving state too early. Luis whistled. It shuts off the witnesses before it shuts off the thing. Aaron reread the line. That was exactly what the system did. The controller reduced background monitoring to preserve power. During the transition, it delayed the signal that told the stop arm to move. Northstar's remote logs remained clean because the logging function was one of the first processes paused. The system did not record its own worst moment. Rebecca's old tag had not only described the same symptom, it had described the condition that made the evidence disappear. At 6:20, Aaron sent the finding to the district's independent reviewer, copying Northstar and his own attorney. He made no accusation about 6 years earlier. He did not need to. The present evidence was enough to require action. At 6:47, Evelyn Price emailed him 3 words. We need Rebecca. Rebecca came to Columbus 2 days later. She did not come for Northstar. She made that clear before Aaron had finished offering coffee. I came because Sophie asked me, she said. They met at the same diner where Dawn had delivered the records. Rebecca arrived in a navy suit with a rolling laptop bag and rain on the shoulders of her coat. At 43, she looked both familiar and newly specific to Aaron. The quick eyes were the same. So was the habit of aligning the sugar packets while she waited. But the woman across from him was no longer the exhausted person he remembered pacing their kitchen at 2 in the morning, trying to prove a fault everyone had decided not to see. Sophie sat in the booth between them, not physically but in every sentence. She messaged you? Aaron asked. Yesterday. She said she wanted one conversation where nobody prepared the other person's answer. That sounds like her. It sounds like what she had to become. Aaron accepted that without defending himself. Rebecca opened her bag and removed an old external drive, a paper notebook, and a sealed envelope with Northstar's legal department printed in the corner. I won't violate the settlement, she said. The drive contains my personal test models and files Northstar returned to me after review. The notebook is mine. The envelope is the final agreement, which Evelyn is allowed to see because she signed it. Do you still have the original data? No. Martin kept telling everyone I stole a complete archive. I copied 7 test exports and my own report after my access to the validation system started changing. I gave the copies to my attorney. Northstar received them back as part of the settlement. Why didn't you tell me that? Rebecca stared at him. I did. Aaron remembered the kitchen. Rebecca speaking too fast, papers spread across the table, Sophie asleep upstairs. Martin had called that afternoon and described potential damages and numbers Aaron could not picture. He had heard Rebecca say she had taken only her own work. But by then he had categorized everything she said as part of a crisis he needed to contain. You did, he admitted. You believed the person who sounded calmer. Yes. Rebecca's anger faltered. An honest answer gave it nothing to push against. Aaron placed the orange tag on the table. Rebecca did not touch it. I wrote that during the last overnight test, she said. The controller delayed the arm at low voltage, then suspended the event logger during recovery. Martin said the battery condition was unrealistic. I showed him field data from winter routes. He removed me from validation. Why is the R7 code on current hardware? It shouldn't be. R7 was not a part number. It was the 7th revision of the power priority logic. That changed the problem. Northstar had told the district that the old and current controllers merely shared a casing family designation. Rebecca was saying R7 identified the software logic itself. Could it have been reused by accident? Aaron asked. Software gets carried forward all the time. The question is whether the warning attached to it got carried forward too. She opened the notebook. 2 pages had been removed cleanly near the back. My final test summary was here, she said. North Star copied it during the investigation. When they returned the notebook, the pages were gone. That isn't proof Martin removed them. No. But this might be. Rebecca unfolded the settlement letter. One paragraph listed materials North Star had reviewed and retained. Among them was Final Low Voltage Validation Summary, R7. Evelyn's signature appeared at the bottom. Aaron read the paragraph twice. She told me she was informed you altered the condition after approval. My summary says the condition was part of the planned test. And she signed that North Star had it. She signed that they retained it. I don't know if she read it. That was the second truth Aaron had wanted to simplify. Evelyn could have knowingly buried the report. She could also have signed a settlement package her staff had summarized dishonestly. One possibility was more malicious. Both left her responsible. Will you give this to the independent reviewer? He asked. Rebecca closed the envelope. After we talked to Sophie. Aaron nodded. No argument? I'm trying a new management system. Rebecca almost smiled. How's that going? Expensively. They met Sophie at home that evening. No lawyers. No company representatives. Aaron ordered pizza because cooking would have given him something to do with his hands, and he was trying not to escape into competence. Sophie sat at the kitchen table with her 3-column project board leaning against the wall. Rebecca began by apologizing for the calls she had missed. Not for North Star. Not for the move. The calls. I kept waiting until I could give you a good explanation, she said. Then every week I waited made the explanation worse. Did Dad stop you from calling? Sophie asked. Sometimes he made visits harder. He never stopped my calls. Aaron did not interrupt. Did North Star make you leave? Rebecca considered it. North Star made it difficult for me to work here. Your dad made a choice that hurt me. I made choices after that because I was angry and ashamed. Moving was one of them. Staying away as much as I did was another. Nobody made that entire choice for me. Sophie turned to Aaron. Did you think she was lying? I thought she might be right about the controller, he said. But I was scared of what would happen if I supported her and she was wrong. I signed a statement that made the company's case stronger. Then I told myself the statement didn't matter because she was already suspended. Did you know it would hurt her job? Yes. The word made Rebecca look at him. It was the first time Aaron had said it without adding the mortgage, the lawsuit, or Sophie's age. Sophie stared at the pizza box. Were you going to tell me if the bus problem never came back? Aaron could have said eventually. I don't know, he said. Sophie got up and walked to the project board. In the column labeled what I was told, she crossed out the sentence MOM chose work. She replaced it with all 3 adults were afraid. Then below it she wrote fear did not make the choices for them. Mrs. Lennox says a source can explain a decision without excusing it, she said. Rebecca blinked rapidly and looked away. Aaron asked, what do you want now? Sophie capped the marker. I want Mom to answer when she says she will. I want you to stop using my age like a locked door. And I want both of you to ask before you change anything about visits. She sounded 13 again by the end. Firm, uncertain, hoping the adults would not make her regret asking. Rebecca said, okay. Aaron said, okay. The next morning Rebecca gave her records to the independent reviewer. Evelyn called Aaron before noon. I found the summary, she said. Her voice held none of its boardroom finish. Where? In an archived legal file. It was not included in the engineering record. Did you read it 6 years ago? No. Did you sign that North Star had retained it? Yes. Then you had it. Evelyn did not argue. She asked Aaron to meet her at North Star's West Assembly Plant, not headquarters. When he arrived, the afternoon shift was ending. Workers in safety glasses and heavy shirts streamed past unfinished stop-arm assemblies hanging from racks. Nobody applauded Evelyn's arrival. Most simply glanced at her and kept walking. These were the people she had invoked in her office. They were real, tired, and carrying lunch containers to cars that needed fuel. Evelyn led Aaron into a training room overlooking the line. Martin was not present. The independent reviewer confirmed the current fault, she said. It is inherited R7 logic. Our development team reused a stable software branch 3 years ago. The old warning was not attached to the code because Rebecca's summary was segregated into legal files. By Martin? The access history shows his office requested the transfer. He says legal required it. Do you believe him? I believe I built a system where giving me the clean answer was rewarded. Aaron looked through the glass at the assembly line. What happens now? We pause delivery, issue a service action for every affected controller, and notify the districts. A recall? A voluntary corrective campaign. The classification will be determined with regulators. That sounds like a sentence Martin wrote. Martin is on administrative leave. Evelyn placed a new folder on the table. The first page guaranteed Mitchell Fleet Diagnostics a 5-year independent inspection contract. The second established a $2 million safety testing fund. The third offered Aaron and Rebecca a combined settlement of $1.5 million. It included a public correction stating that Rebecca's earlier dismissal had resulted from a breakdown in internal review. It did not say her warning had been correct. It did not say Aaron's statement had been obtained under threat of litigation. And it required all three of them to treat the matter as fully resolved. This was the poisoned offer. Not because the money was imaginary or the reforms were meaningless. They were real. Aaron could secure Sophie's education, protect Luis's job, pay off the shop, and stop wondering whether one cancelled authorization could take away everything he had built. Rebecca could recover some of what North Star had cost her. The testing fund could prevent future failures. All he had to do was let the company choose the final sentence. If I refuse, he asked. We still repair the buses, Evelyn said. That decision is made. But the inspection contract and settlement are part of a complete agreement. And the correction? Our lawyers will issue a statement based on verified findings. Which means Rebecca gets called a breakdown in review. It clears her record. Without saying who put the mark there. Evelyn's face hardened. I am trying to preserve 800 jobs while correcting a serious failure. Purity is easy when someone else handles payroll. Aaron thought of Luis. He thought of the Chicago deposit. He thought of the business account he had shown Sophie. Give me until tomorrow, he said. That night he took the agreement home. He did not ask Sophie whether he should accept $1.5 million. That would have placed an adult decision on her shoulders. But he did ask the question that belonged to her. If we accept this, he said, North Star will say your mom's case was mishandled. They won't say her test was right or explain what they did with it. How would that feel to you? Sophie read the proposed correction. It sounds like nobody did anything, she said. The company will fix the buses. That part is good. The money would change things for us. That part is also good. You're not making this easier. You said ask first. You didn't say I had to be convenient. Aaron smiled briefly. Sophie removed the little blue bus key ring from his tool bag. The silver letters on the back had faded, leaving home brighter than the rest. When I gave you this, I thought it would make you come home, she said. Then I figured out a keychain can't make a person do anything. She said it on the agreement. The check can't make you either. That was the action that changed Aaron's choice. Not a speech about justice. Not a child solving a corporate scandal. Just his daughter returning an object to its proper size. The next morning Aaron called Evelyn. I'll support the repair plan, he said. I'll work with your engineers and I'll testify to exactly what I found. But I won't sign the correction. Then there is no inspection contract. I understand. You may lose your business. I understand that too. What do you want from me, Aaron? It was the same question she had asked before writing the blank check. This time he answered more precisely. Come to the district safety review. Bring the original report. Say what happened including what you failed to read. Then come to my kitchen and answer Sophie's questions without a lawyer telling you which verbs you own. Evelyn was quiet. That is still your one request? She asked. It always was. The district safety review took place 3 days later inside the depot training garage. It was not a courtroom, a boardroom, or a stage built for dramatic justice. It was a working space with folding chairs, oil-darkened concrete, and a bus parked along one wall so the independent reviewer could demonstrate the fault. District officials attended. So did drivers, mechanics, North Star engineers, and representatives from 2 other school systems using the controller. Martin came with an attorney and sat near the back. Aaron spoke first about the present fault. He used plain language. At low battery levels, the controller tried to save power by pausing tasks. It paused the warning system and its own record-keeping at the same time. That delayed the stop arm and erased the clearest electronic trace of the delay. Dawn presented the driver reports. Calvin explained why real buses operated outside ideal test conditions. Rebecca described the original R7 test and authenticated her summary. Then Aaron did the part no settlement could have done for him. 6 years ago, he said, I signed a statement saying Rebecca Mitchell took North Star Records without a valid safety purpose. I knew she said she was preserving evidence. I signed anyway because I was afraid of a lawsuit and afraid of losing our home. North Star used my statement. I have spent 6 years describing that choice as protecting my daughter. It protected my fear. Nobody gasped. There was no applause. Rebecca looked down. Sophie, seated beside Mrs. Lennox in the second row, gripped the edge of her project board. Martin's attorney objected that old employment issues were beyond the review's scope. Evelyn stood before anyone could answer. They are within North Star's scope, she said. She carried Rebecca's original report to the front and placed it beside the current controller. North Star possessed this report. It accurately identified the failure now confirmed in our present product. 6 years ago, the report was removed from the engineering file and retained as part of a legal matter. I approved the settlement that documented its retention. I did not read the report. I accepted a summary that described the test as unauthorized. Martin rose. Evelyn, that is not a complete account. Then you will provide yours to the independent investigators. He sat down. Evelyn continued. North Star will correct the affected systems at its expense. We will restore low-voltage field testing, separate safety records from employment disputes, and fund independent district verification. We will also issue a correction stating that Rebecca Mitchell's warning was technically valid and should have remained attached to the R7 logic. Her voice shook only once. 800 jobs matter, she said. So does the work those people believe they are doing. Preserving their jobs by hiding a safety failure would not protect them. It would recruit them into it. That was the reckoning. Not the destruction of North Star, not Martin confessing, not a room rising to honor Aaron. A CEO told the truth before she knew exactly what it would cost, because a mechanic with a small business had refused to let her buy the order in which facts became real. The consequences were uneven. The Indiana contract was delayed, then reduced rather than canceled. North Star suspended production for 12 days and reassigned workers to the corrective program. Martin left the company 2 months later after an outside review found that he had directed Rebecca's report into the legal archive and approved the removal of low-voltage testing. No criminal case appeared. No dramatic officer arrived. He lost his authority, his position, and the version of events that had protected him. Evelyn remained CEO, but the board removed her annual bonus and appointed an independent safety chair with power she could not overrule. Some investors called it accountability. Others called it weakness. The buses did not care what it was called. They were repaired. North Star restored Aaron's service authorization. He declined the guaranteed 5-year contract. Instead, 3 school districts hired Mitchell Fleet Diagnostics directly for independent inspections. The first year was leaner than a blank check would have made it, but Louise stayed, the shop stayed open, and Sophie went to Chicago. Rebecca's correction ran in the same trade publications that had repeated the old testing dispute. It did not repair 6 lost years. It did allow her to stop carrying North Star's version into every new room. The harder repair happened at Aaron's kitchen table. Evelyn came on a Sunday afternoon wearing jeans and carrying no folder. Rebecca drove in from Pittsburgh. Sophie placed her 3-column board against the wall and asked the question Aaron had requested Evelyn answer. Why did my mom leave? Evelyn did not hide behind one cause. She left North Star because we punished her for refusing a clean answer, she said. She left Columbus because the punishment followed her. Your father's statement made that worse. My signature made it easier. And your mother also made choices after that which belonged to her. Sophie looked at Rebecca. Rebecca nodded. That's true. Why didn't any of you tell me? Aaron answered first. Because I confused controlling the story with keeping you safe. Rebecca said, because I was ashamed that I had left and afraid you would not forgive me. Evelyn said, because I believed a settled problem was the same as a solved one. Sophie considered all 3 answers. Can we stop calling it protecting me? She asked. They could. That did not turn them into a perfect family. Rebecca still lived in Pittsburgh. She and Sophie began with a scheduled Sunday call and 1 weekend a month. Aaron sometimes had to stop himself from correcting Rebecca's plans before Sophie had responded. Rebecca sometimes apologized before she had listened. Sophie occasionally used ask first as a weapon when she simply disliked an answer, because 13-year-olds can turn even healthy rules into specialized equipment. But the rule changed. Ask first, fix second no longer meant Aaron had to stand back from every problem. It meant he had to know whose problem it was, who would live with the solution, and whether he had invited them into the decision. In the spring, Sophie presented her revised oral history project at the district student showcase. The title was still what people leave out. Rebecca sat in the front row beside Aaron. Evelyn stood quietly in the back at Sophie's invitation. On the display board, the orange inspection tag appeared under a clear cover beside a photograph of the repaired bus controller. The little blue bus key ring hung from the bottom corner. Its silver lettering had nearly disappeared. Route was faint. Home remained. Aaron arrived 20 minutes early. When Sophie saw him, she pointed to a loose corner on the board. Aaron reached automatically for the roll of tape in his pocket. Then he stopped. "Do you want me to fix that?" he asked. Sophie looked at the curling paper, then at him. "After the presentation," she said. "Right now, I just want you in the chair." Aaron put the tape away and sat down. For years, he had believed bringing his daughter home safely meant removing every danger before it reached her. He finally understood that home was not the place where nothing painful was said. It was the place where nobody had to carry the truth alone.